10 years ago when Kia launched their original Soul, there were two other major competitors for this boxy style subcompact crossover slash compact car, the Scion XB and the Nissan Cube. However, there's only one of those remaining here today. Our spotlight is on this 2020 Kia Soul EX Limited. This is the third generation for the Kia Soul, and it's gotten a lot more aggressive since the previous generation. We did feature the 2018 Kia Soul EV a little earlier on. Now this has a new 2-liter engine with the same intelligent variable transmission we saw on the new Kia Forte. However, they aren't offering the turbocharged engine in Canada at this time. We are hoping that will change. The length for this vehicle is up 53 millimeters from last year and also has a 30 millimeter longer wheelbase than before. This lunar orange vehicle is MSRP'd at $29,195 Canadian, and we're going to be going over absolutely everything you need to know if you're in the market for a new sub $30,000 funky little car. We got our first glimpse of the new 2020 Soul a few months ago, and instantly I knew that this was going to be a car we wanted to feature. Now I did drive the second generation. It was probably a 2014 model, essentially the entry level, and at the time I wasn't a huge fan of it. We revisited it with the Soul EV for the 2018 model year. We did like it quite a bit. It has a lot of the same features that you would want to find on a compact car today, and especially with the electric version, it had good range. Now we are planning to do the EV for 2020 a little bit later on. It's not on the fleet at this time, but it does change some of the interior bits around, and it comes with different trims. Now you might notice our little Soul hamster in the windshield here. Even though Kia has stopped with the whole Soul hamster thing for their marketing, it still is a quirky, funky little car, and I think that's why we're going to keep him there. And he actually is going to play a little bit of a role later on as we talk about one of the specific features of this car, something that we actually reached out to Kia Canada about when we featured our episode of Test Drive Showdown with the Mazda 3 and Kia Forte. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But like I said, this has a 2-liter inline-4 engine, produces 147 horsepower, 132 pound-feet of torque. The turbo engine for this would probably be a little bit more fun. It also could come with a 7-speed dual-clutch automated manual transmission. So if you're in the US, you can get that car. Here, this is about it. There's one trim above it. It is the GT Line Limited, which would really just add cosmetic changes to the exterior of the car. All the other kit and features are the same. This vehicle has 18-inch alloy rims, full LED headlights, as you can see here. They look really nice, especially a very aggressive front end with the smaller headlight design, and then the second row below it with your fog lights and turn signals. I think it looks pretty cool. LED taillights as well, and rain-sensing wipers with heated mirrors. Unfortunately, power folding mirrors are not available here in Canada. You do get a sunroof, and then all the safety tech you would expect for a vehicle that's priced around $30,000. You have adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, forward collision, rear cross traffic alert, and a backup camera. Now it's weird, there's no heated windshield washer or windshield with this trim. If you go for essentially anything but the base model and not this EX Limited or the GT Limited, you will have those two features. I don't know why they removed it on this, but it's something to note. And because the Soul is a funky little car, it does have a pretty strong following behind it. And I don't know if it's going to throw people off now that they've come out with a much more aggressive looking car. The thing I really do like about it is it's not like it's Stinger inspired like people continue to say about the Forte. This really does have a look of its own, and you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. I've seen a lot of comments in favor for this vehicle and a lot of people that just don't like the rear end design. You have boomerang style taillights that wrap around. Even though the entire assembly doesn't light up, especially along the top, it does make it look like the lights start from essentially the bottom inside portion and work their way up to the top and the middle. Same kind of deal with the front headlights. There is a bar that runs through the center where the grille would be, and again, that doesn't light up. It does have the same sort of dimensions as the previous generation. They have changed a little bit here and there to make it a little bit more appealing, maybe to younger buyers, but I think that the core buyers are still going to be interested in this, as I have already started to see a lot of these on the road much before the press got their hands on it a couple weeks ago, and certainly much before we've had the chance to drive it. So let's jump inside now, because there is a lot to go over when it comes to the interior of the Soul, and then we'll continue on our road test for everything else you need to know about the 2020 Soul EX Limited. Now the interior hasn't changed in terms of the layout. While a lot of this has been updated and changed it still follows the same basic structure of how they wanted the Soul to work. First off, the window space is very good. You have very tall windows all the way around the car, good visibility all the way around the vehicle. Backup camera works pretty well as well. We have leather seats on the EXL and GT line limited. They are heated and ventilated on the front, and the rear seats are also heated as well on the outboard. You have a heated steering wheel, which is a nice plus to have for our market up here in Canada, and dual zone automatic climate control. One thing to note, there are no vents in the center armrest for the rear passengers. So if you do have people back there, it's much like some of the other compact cars in this segment now that just don't have vents back there. I think it could be a little bit of a miss, might be a little stuffy back there compared to some other vehicles. It's the technology on this car that has gotten me so excited. First of all, they're using a 640 watt 10 speaker Harman Kardon audio system. Kia says that this is almost double what was in the previous generation, and they've kept their tweeter speakers, which are unique to them, in the front dashboard. I think it looks pretty cool. They also have sound reactive speaker lights, as they call it. There's some lights that run around the speaker grill in the door where your armrest is, the top portion as well. They will change based on the music. However, we have tested it at night, and you really do have to be in a very dark situation for them to actually be bright enough to see, but it's kind of cool. It's a little funky thing. It doesn't really work during the day though. The other big technology change in this vehicle is the 10.25-inch infotainment system. It doesn't use a different version of Kia's infotainment, which we already liked to begin with. It's just much bigger now. You have a lot more screen real estate, and the image quality is also very high detailed. You can have a home screen, which will show you whatever you want, whether it's a map, your music, phone, weather, things like that. If you're in the map like I usually like to be, you can have a split screen setup to see your music at the same time. This is really nice stuff. Especially in the consumer segment, this is easily the best system that we've tested now. You have a good amount of screen real estate, like I mentioned. Speed is very good when it comes to operating the system, especially on startup. And Kia really is going with the old saying, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. They haven't changed the software itself. They've just improved slightly on it, so very good points from that. You also have an 8-inch color head-up display. It slides up out of the dashboard area. A little different than we've seen on other models from Kia, but I really do think it's a nice touch on this car, especially at the price point. There are some vehicles that cost quite a bit more that don't have a head-up display, so you've got a good amount of information throughout. You have wireless phone charging, LED interior lighting, a sunroof up top, and space for 4 people comfortably, even though you do have the 5th seatbelt in the back seat. Kia says that they haven't really changed the interior dimensions all that much, so whatever fit into your Kia Soul today should fit in the new 2021. And that's one of the reasons why people like these cars. You can fit more in it than you could in a regular car just because that back space is a little bit bigger. Now I want to take this car on the road. We'll talk about its 2-liter Atkinson cycle engine and go over everything else you need to know about the 2020 Kia Soul. Okay, so I promised that our little Soul hamster here would come into a demonstration. We didn't do it during the walk-around segment. I'm going to do it now. And I feel bad because I really do like him. He's very cute. But Kia says that both of the front windows on this car are obstacle detecting. Now, at first I had no idea what that meant until I actually reached out to Kia and they had to go and explain it to me. It is in the owner's manual, but essentially it's like what BMW's been doing for decades. If the window detects that there's something that stops it from closing, like your arm, then it'll stop. It only works on the front windows, and something like the Forte was only the driver window. Now, in the owner's manual, they have a little teddy bear that they use to demonstrate this system. I don't have a teddy bear, I have a little Soul hamster. So if we put the little guy here, and then we close it, if it works, the obstacle detecting window actually works, it should stop him from being mauled to death by the window. So let's see. Oh, no. Oh, he's really squished. Oh, boy. Ooh, oh, that's really squished. I feel bad. Like I said in the owner's manual, it's a little teddy bear. I don't really want to put my arm in here now because, like, oh, there we go. Oh, no, that killed me. So if I had a baby in here or something, there we go. That worked. Now, it's interesting. The reason why I've done this test is because, as I said, in the owner's manual, they actually have a teddy bear. It doesn't work. So just something to note. You can see there if your arm is in the way, which is the actual thing that's important. If you have a body part or something, maybe somebody's stuck their head out the window for whatever reason, you don't have to worry about being decapitated. If you're a Soul hamster though, chances are you're going to die if you put yourself in it. But let's talk about the drive, ride, and handling of our little 2020 Soul EX Limited. With the 2-liter engine, you're not going to have a very spirited drive. It's still very good if you're looking for a small car like this. We've talked about it before in the Kia Forte. We even talked about it at great length when we did the showdown with the Mazda 3. If you're getting back and forth to work or to school, it's going to be no problem. If you want something a little sportier, if you're kind of the type of person who wants to buy maybe a Civic Si, but you like the look of the Soul, here in Canada, you're going to at least have to wait. There hasn't really been any word if the real GT version is going to be coming here. I do hope it does, because I think it looks very nice along with the actual power to be able to get you going. I do believe, and I don't have the information in front of me, but I do believe it's like 201 horsepower with the dual clutch transmission. So it actually would be pretty fun on the road, especially at the size of this vehicle, because this is actually a little heavier than the Kia Forte sedan that we featured. So it isn't going to be as quick as it was on the Forte. But if you're looking to go back and forth to school, things like that, you shouldn't have too much of an issue. Kia has a couple drive modes here, really just sport and normal. There's no eco mode, which I think would have been nice. You can put it into sport mode. You can put it into sport transmission mode as well, and then you can shift it yourself. Down is towards you, not the right pattern. Up and away from you. I don't think most people are going to be keeping it in that. It is an IVT or a CVT for most people out there, but we have talked about it. It is one of, if not the best CVT that we've driven. We really don't feel like you're driving a CVT. And honestly, if you do keep it in manual shift mode, it does feel like you're going through the gears. So let's see here. We're going to come down, shift down. So, you know, it's a little not as forceful as it would be on a regular transmission, but you do feel it. It does feel like it is doing something. And then if we go, yeah, you can tell it's a CVT, but not in a bad way. So I'm going to leave it in sport mode for the transmission and the engine profile, just to have a little bit more fun on our drive here. But honestly, I've been driving this car for the last week, and I do like it. I mean, I like the way it looks, first of all. I think it's really nice. It's a mix, more on the aggressive side than it is on just the nice looking side. So if you're looking for something a little sportier, then this has the look for it. Again, you go up to the GT line version, whether you get the premium or the limited, and you're going to have just a little bit more enhancement when it comes to the sport look, not necessarily the sport feel. But I think that it is a huge upgrade. Not that the old Soul was anything bad, but when you park the two of them next to each other, it's a huge difference. I mean, this looks so good. And I know, again, it's hit or miss. You're either going to like it or you're not. But I like the look of this, especially in the right color. Personally, I wouldn't pick the lunar orange. I'd get like a blue, or even black would look really cool with this car. But the colors are really funky. Not quite as funky as before, but the type of people that Kia wants to buy this car, the younger demographic, will certainly like the different color options and the way that the car looks overall. And again, I talked about this during our showdown, and we talked about it too in the comments on the showdown with the Mazda 3 versus Kia Forte. When you look at what this car has to offer at this trim, I know it is fully loaded, but it's 29 grand. It's not overly expensive when you think about it. This has a lot going for it. It doesn't feel like you're driving an entry-level car. Now, I know technically the Rio is the entry-level vehicle for Kia, but still, most people see a compact car as an entry-level vehicle. I mean, you really get a lot of kit for this price. All the safety tech that you'd really want. Ventilated seats is a nice plus on a day like today. You have the heated seats if you need it during the winter with the heated steering wheel. And really, I said the only thing that I'm missing, aside from the engine, if they really did put that engine on here, I think it'd be a lot more fun. But from a feature perspective, it's just the rear vents for the passengers back there. That's the one thing that it's missing. Everything else is pretty much solid for what you'd want out of a car at this price point. And even that coupled rear torsion beam at the back, something that we talk about often, it's not a miss on this vehicle. Again, because it's kind of a funky little car, you're probably not going to worry about it too much. You're going to feel it no matter what, because the car is so small to begin with. But you know, most of the manufacturers are going with some form of a torsion beam for the rear end. So finding a car without one, that's kind of tough these days. I wouldn't worry a whole lot about it. And it's because people want features. They want this nice infotainment screen. They want a head-up display. All of this stuff costs money, and it means the manufacturers have to strip something out. And in this case, it's the rear-end suspension. Yeah, it's funny, there's a Kona, and we talked about that when we did the episode. I'm not a huge fan of the look of it, but you can kind of see some similarities with this more so than Kia's Niro. And I like the look of this a lot better. I just find that the dual headlight setup works better on this vehicle than it did on the the Kona, and I really think that this could be a popular seller. I know some people here in the province prefer if it came with all-wheel drive. Doesn't seem to be something that Kia is interested at this time. While the Kia Soul EV has a pretty good range on it, there might be a possibility to do like a dual motor setup down the road. Some of the other manufacturers like Volvo are looking at more options for that, where they have a gas motor powering the front wheels and an electric motor in the back for the back. Could be a possibility, but you still do see a lot of Souls on the road despite it being front wheel only here in Quebec. Okay, let's do a dig. We're in sport mode, flooring it, no wheel spin. I have to kind of look down from my hood. Whee! That's about 100. Oh! Yeah, I mean, it picks up pretty quick for what it is. Again, I mean, it's heavier than the Forte, but I think it looks better than the Forte. Considering the 2020 Kia Soul shares a lot of mechanical parts from the 2019 Forte that we featured, we expected to get similar results from the fuel economy test that we did, with numbers that support a vehicle that weighs more and is shaped more like a box. We got 6.4 liters per 100 kilometers or 37 US miles per gallon on our 100 kilometer test loop, and 7.6 liters per 100 kilometers or 31 miles per gallon during our week. By comparison, the Forte EX did 5.9 liters and 7.2 liters respectively. The Soul comes in with a strong list of likes, including its aggressive exterior design, available safety technology, updated 10.25-inch infotainment system, full LED lighting, and the Harman Kardon audio system. And there wasn't much to dislike about the Soul EX Limited. We'd like to see a set of vents for the rear passengers like the Forte EX has. Also, a continued comment we've had about Kia's lineup is the numerous trims, 8 including the special 20th anniversary edition. By comparison, the US market only has 6 easy-to-understand trims, including the top-end 1.6-liter turbo GT line version. Now, we understand that they're trying to line up the Soul's trims with the Forte, but it was the same complaint that we had about that car when we tested it. Finally, Kia Canada only offers 7 colors for the EX Limited, whereas the US gets 11. The only true funky color is space green, and it feels more reserved compared with Souls of years past. But those are purely personal taste complaints, and if the rear vents are the only thing missing from the 2020 Soul, then overall Kia seems to have nailed this one on the first try. We've started spotting a lot of these on the road, and we expect it, along with its EV brother, to be popular sellers here in North America. Let us know in the comments below if you think the new Soul still has what it takes, or if Kia is missing that magic formula that made it the last box car standing.